Welcome to Bold Encounters. I'm Mark Cook, and I have with me Ann Stigsson, and she's a hospice counselor and therapist in Malmö, Sweden. She's the mother of three and spouse with one of my best friends, Jerker Stigsson. And she has an interesting story from years ago that I wanted to cover. She was a volunteer for Mother Teresa herself and the Missionaries of Charity in Calcutta and other cities, and even in a leprosy village or colony, as we would call it before. So I wanted to talk to Ann about a very specific topic, and that is about getting to know the one and the effects and the ripples that it has, not just in life, but we'll end up talking about it in business too. How are you, Ann?
I'm fine. I'm great. Thank you.
And forgive me for mispronouncing it in the American way. It's Ann, and I can't quite say it. It's not on, and it's not Ann, but it's Ann. Is that right? Say it.
Yes, it's Ann.
There it is. Ann.
You're doing fine.
Yeah.
So I am Ann. I'm 52. I am a counselor and a therapist in the palliative care, like hospice care. That's what I'm working with. And I'm living in Sweden, in Malmö, the southern part of Sweden. I have three, one daughter and two sons with Jerker, my husband.
Well, it's so fun to see you. It's so fun to get to talk about this. This is a really interesting topic. I want to start out with your story on how you even got involved with this. Take us back to that time. And there was, before you even thought of doing this, you were living life and life was okay. Tell us where that was and how, what were you involved with and why was it pretty good?
I was very young for that year. So very young, longing to dig deeper into to the meaning of life, I think. So it was between high school and college or university. We have a little bit different system here in Sweden than you have in the States. But I was in my 20s, in the early 20s, and life was good. And I lived with I actually moved away from home at that point. I have a mother and father and a bigger brother, and my brother Tom, he was out in the world traveling a lot. So he talked about all these places, India and other places in Asia and so on. And inside I was longing to see the places too that he was talking about. But I was also in a deep longing for understand myself and the world and the meaning of life, I think. So I was starting to think that I wanted to do something that felt meaningful, and I was wanted to help out somehow, somewhere, and grow as a person, I think.
And so what bumped into you or what happened that steered you in the direction of this Mother Teresa venture?
Yes, it was. So I had this longing, but I didn't know what organization to turn to. So I was looking into different organizations, but most of them needed doctors or nurses or teachers, and I was so young, so I wasn't educated enough for them to want me to help out. So when I heard that it was possible for me to go to Mother Teresa's homes, that felt very appealing to me. So I wrote a letter to Mother Teresa, Missionaries of Charity in Calcutta, India. And I waited to receive a letter from her. And it came a few weeks later, and she said that I was very welcome to come and to stay as long as I wanted. So I said, okay, I will. So I wanted to do this alone. So I actually put myself on a flight, and I didn't actually know what was waiting for me in India, but I knew that I wanted to go there and find out if this could be a good thing for me to experience. Yeah.
So tell us about arriving. That there's those moments we get off planes and and enter a new world. Tell us about that.
I was very young and very brave, I think. I think you are when you are very young, usually. And so I wasn't very nervous. I was excited. But coming from Sweden and going to Calcutta, I came to a totally different world with different noises and or sounds and smells and everything was different. So I was just hoping everything was going to be okay with me and that I would meet people that would help me to adjust. And I took a taxi and I found a place to live, and I entered the Mother Teresa's mother house and asked where they wanted me to work, where they needed me.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was just jumping right into it. And there were other volunteers. This was a long time ago. So Mother Teresa was there. She was alive. Now she died in 1996, but she was alive at that time. And she was in the house, and I met her, and I met her sisters, and I met other volunteers, and I felt very safe and welcomed and loved.
So was she there right as you came in the house, or?
She lived like in a big white house on a street, and it used to belong to a lawyer, a Muslim lawyer, and he gave it away to Mother Teresa when she was looking for a place to live. And he said, God gave me this house, and now I'm giving it back to him. So that's a little story of itself. So I went in there, and the nuns said hello and nice to meet you, and gave me just a nice welcome. But I had an opportunity. I went to this house every day. They had like a mass, and they had breakfast for the volunteers, and we were from all over the world and from different places, different ages, different religions, and we joined there and met there. And Mother Teresa was there, and sometimes you could talk a little bit to her, and so I did sometimes, yeah. But daily I was there. That's where I started my day, and then we went to these different homes to help out as volunteers.
What were you when you worked with Mother Teresa?
I was there for a year.
Was it just a volunteer thing, or what was it?
Yes, so Mother Teresa and the Missionaries of Charity, and it was in the early 90s, and Mother Teresa was alive, like she was living, and I was mainly in Calcutta. I had 1 month in Nepal and 1 month in a leprosy village, but otherwise I was in Calcutta.
Amazing. Tell us about going to some of those places to help out.
Yes. So the main place that I found was the place I really wanted to work at was Calicut. So that's the home for the dying. It's a hospice for the poorest of the poor in Calcutta. And it was in a Hindu old temple house that was given to Mother Teresa. And there were these 2 big rooms, 1 room for the males and 1 room for the women. And that was a place where instead of dying on the streets, Mother Teresa wanted people to come there to die and with dignity. And I know that one man once said that he lived his life on the streets as an animal, but he died as an angel, loved and wanted. So, and that was the mission of that hospice. That was the reason why it was there. Mother Teresa wanted every person that came into to Caliga to feel loved and wanted. And people were brought in by taxi drivers, by neighbors, by anyone could just bring a person there to give them a bed and to be taken care of by Mother Teresa's sisters and the volunteers. Yeah. That was one home. Another home was Shishu Baban. That's a children's home where they took care of children, and some of them got adopted and some of them didn't get adopted, but then Mother Teresa made sure that they get education if they wanted to, or a job if they wanted to. So she tried to help them to develop and be able to take care of themselves, live good lives.
It's such a tricky thing now to protect orphans that get adopted. Did she have a process for making sure that the people that were taking them would care for them?
Yes, and I know if they had disabilities of some sort, those children didn't as easily get adopted, actually. So usually that was the children that was stayed in the home and worked for Mother Teresa or worked somewhere else, but yeah, taken care of in one way or another. Yeah. Tell
us some of the actual work and activities that you were involved with, both first at the hospice and then at these orphanages.
It was much about very basic needs. It was about washing the floors, washing the clothes, or bringing them food, bringing them medicine, so helping them to the toilet, holding their hand, singing for them. Like, it was the basic human needs, I would say, that we could offer. And it was same with the children's home. It was singing, holding hands, hugging, helping them with changing diapers, or helping out in the kitchen, or cleaning the floor, or very, very basic needs. Not something anyone actually could do without any education.
Do you think the combination of those things is what made that one man that you started out our conversation with say that he died as an angel instead of on the streets as an animal? Is it the combination of those things, or what would you say made him say that, if you had to guess?
I think when you help a person with the basic needs, it gives you a natural connection to a person. It's difficult to not be touched by your heart if you washing someone's diaper, or you helping someone to the toilet, or you actually making it clean for them. It changes your heart, I would say, and it gives you a connection to the person. And I think that, combined with the philosophy of the one person's value, like if you have that in mind, that one person is valuable, that each person is valuable, that there is, doesn't matter if the person is poor or rich, or what kind of circumstances that person's life has been. I think it makes the connection very, very deep, and close.
Is there a story or some event that happened to you that was particularly special there, or was it the whole thing just special?
There is absolutely there are absolutely special moments that I do remember, even if it also was in the daily job that I felt that I was touched and that I experienced something that was very much connected to the meaning of life and kindness and love. And but there is one story that it wasn't my experience, but I heard about it when I was there, and I read about it when I had read about Mother Teresa. There was many people have been very willing to give Mother Teresa money or things that she can use for giving to the poorest of the poor. And one thing was that someone wanted to give her washing machines, and she said no, she didn't want any washing machines. And the offer repeated. They asked her again and again, and she said no every time. And people they were very frustrated because they thought that if she only could get washing machines, that would be a way to make her work more effective or efficient. And so they thought she was unwise to say no. But for Mother Teresa, the reason why she said no, it was because if she started to think about the Mass, that she wanted to help more people, she was afraid that people would become numbers. And when people become numbers, she said, I would lose the person in front of me. Then the person in front of me I will forget the value of that person if that person has become a number. So that is one story that really touched me, because it seems backwards. It seems like maybe unwise and a very bad idea to say no to something that would actually increase her ability to help more. But she was so afraid that the value of the one would decrease if she was focused on the masses. So, and I think that philosophy was very much part of the daily work and what I saw in Calcutta. It wasn't about being effective helper. It was about being a loving helper, and a helper that could make each person feel valuable. And she didn't want to lose that. So that was one story. And another story was something that I was experienced when I was working in Kalligat, the Hospice Care. And one day a man was brought in by someone, and they put him on a bed, and immediately the whole house, the home was filled with a terrible smell, because he had wounds and he was in a terrible shape. So the smell was very intense, and I couldn't help myself. I was making this face, not because I just came very naturally, because it was such a strong smell. But there was one nun that immediately, she didn't have that face. Instead she came. Her face was coming with a big smile, and she went directly to that person, and she started to take care of him. And she did it for a long time, because the clothes has been like so many sores, and the clothes it was hard for the clothes to get off, because it was in the sores, kind of, yeah. And he was in pain, but she was giving it as much time as it was needed for him to be clean, and she took care of him, and it took a very long time, and she was doing it with a big smile. And I was so impressed, and I asked her afterwards how she could do that in that gracious way. And for her, as a Catholic, she said that each person that came into that home, it was like Christ himself came in. And for her, each person was that important to take care of. So for her, it was a holy moment. It was her privilege to take care of that person, whoever it was. And that's how she gained her strength to do it so lovingly and so naturally and so happily. And she saw it as a privilege, not like a task, not like a person that just needed to be taken care of and she needed to get a job done. She did it because she wanted to. She felt this is my privilege to take care of you. Yeah.
What did that do to you? Did it change your behavior after that?
Yes, it touched me very deeply, and till this day, I mean, this is 30 plus years later, and it's something that helped me to realize that there is much power in a relationship like that. There is so much power in that way of viewing each person that it can. That's how I can do too. I can choose to see it as a privilege to help someone. That is my choice. And to see that in her, it was beautiful and it was hopeful and it was very touching, and something that was very sad became also very beautiful.
It sounds like she was focused on someone who most people feel is the best, the greatest that ever walked the earth, and yet there were times where he was even in need and dire straits, and the cloth on his body was stuck. It's quite a story. It's quite a story.
Yeah, and it was so physical. It was yeah, and my whole system. I touched my feelings. It was brain blowing, and it was mind blowing is the word maybe. And but I also felt it in my body. I got touched on every level. And for me, it was just a story that made myself realize that life can be so beautiful and relationships can be. I mean, she didn't know him. Maybe she never. I don't know when he died. Maybe he was there just for a few days. I don't know. But it was possible to get a deep relationship so quickly, just with simply in a simple act of caring.
Yeah, it's interesting as you say that. It makes me think. She knew him. You said she may not know him in the traditional sense, but she knew him deeply, and she may know him better than anyone who would know what latest movie he's seen or what his favorite restaurant is. When you go to nurturing and you go to caring for others, it's a very deep, and that proximity. I know Dr. Van Epp that I've interviewed once over the phone talked about how in a romantic relationship there is the touch and all that entails as that progresses into a committed relationship, and then there is the proximate touch and the proximity in personal space that, if it's platonic, is also very powerful and potent, and this takes that to the nth degree while you're caring for someone and trying to extract cloth out of the middle of a set of scabs and things like that. It's quite an intimate moment that is just purely service and nurturing.
Yeah. Yes, and I heard that at one meeting that Mother Teresa was invited to. It was with world leaders, and she was going to give this speech. And I think people were assuming that the speech was going to be quite long, or at least 5 or 10 minutes or something. I don't know what they were thinking, but she went up, and the only thing she said that it was, "Do you know the people you lead? Do you love them?" And then she went down.
Do you know them And you love them. Wow.
Do you know the people you lead? And do you love them? And then she went down.
Wow. Because it is Mother Teresa. If there was a direct contact that you had, it might have been the first because it was such an intense moment. Or was there a moment that you met her, worked side by side, talked to her in that room, wherever it was? Was there a moment that was meaningful for you?
I met her daily. She recognized me. She said hello, and we did talk a little bit where I was from and what I did there, and she gave me some life advice too. She said actually, don't forget that when you get home, love your family. Everyone is not meant to be a nun. And if you're not meant to be the nun or a nun, go home and love your family. I remember that. And she was always sitting in the back of like there were quite many nuns in this room during the mass, and she was in the back and she sat there, and she was there almost every day. And her presence was very strong. Like you could feel when she was in the room and when she wasn't. And she was quite short, or very short actually. She had big hands. You could see that they had done a lot of work. And she was very friendly. She was also very funny. And I was told she was very, she was very determined, and but also very funny. She had a great sense of humor. She went to visit Kalligat, the home for the dying. She didn't, because she actually went up the earliest, like she was up earliest, and then she went to bed the latest. And when she came and visited the homes, she directly went to the toilet and made them clean, just to make a statement that she wasn't above anyone else. Like she did what everyone else did, she could do too.
So not only sitting on the back in each meeting, but cleaning the toilets of everyone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What did it mean to you? You know, it's interesting when I take people through an exercise where we explore how they help other people in their business. There's usually 12 themes from some research I've done that stand out, and people quickly and instinctively, I think about themselves. So I get this, I get that, and it's pretty easy for me to say, okay, we're not talking about you getting wellness. We're talking about someone else getting wellness because you have chosen to go into wellness. And those are very different activities. A very different activity for you to get fit, for you to eat right, for you to get healthy, than it is for you to cause that for someone else. It's interesting when I get to nurture, it's tricky because it dramatically changes it. We all can think about being nurtured, but giving someone else the opportunity to nurture is a tricky thing. It's the place of nursing professors and things like that. But this is what we're talking about. I mean, she gave you the gift of being able to nurture others. Could you just talk about what that meant to you and what you experienced in that regard?
It's absolutely true. I feel, and it was just a great privilege to me to be there. And it was giving me some very valuable skills in life, I think, but it gave me a great and deep satisfaction. I felt very satisfied and happy during that year in Calcutta. It was like it was, and that was my goal. I wanted to dig deep into the meaning of life. I wanted unnecessary things to be taken away. I wanted to get into the essence of life. And I think that was the gift for me, that I was able to be in the essence of life, where love and kindness counted. and so absolutely happiness, satisfaction, and just also the gift of being connected, not only to yourself but also to other people. I think that we are connected. We are social animals, and we do have a need to be connected to people, and the connection that I could feel, that I got from serving the poorest of the poor together with the missionaries of charity, it was very joyful and very it was like feeling more whole, and it was also, I think, maybe a healing from selfishness. It was like a healing process in some sense. Now when I think about it, getting closer to myself, feeling more energy, both in my in my body and my mind. I had more energy when I was able to be part of this wonderful service. And just not reading about it in a book about love and kindness and the meaning of life, I was actually able to witness it just right in front of me. It was being part of the film Meaning of Life. It was educating me about loving kindness and deep connection.
Well, you mentioned a minute ago that she didn't want to accept the washers and dryers because she would lose the individual, and because she would lose the individual, the quality of care and her love would be diminished. It's interesting, though, ironically, because she was so good at this and orchestrated a massive organization, it doesn't sound like that means that she was casual and lazy and slow and worked short hours, as you mentioned. So was there a sense of urgency in this when you were around her and in this organization?
It wasn't restful. I mean, they were actually like ants. They were like working all the time, and everything was about service and serving the poorest of the poor. They had a very clear vision and mission, and it was their whole purpose of every day to serve, to work, to make life better for the people they were going to help. So absolutely, it was that kind of energy that you could absolutely get, that you could sense. So it was in that way. What was the word that you was using with you?
Well, I liked what you said better. You said that they were like ants. So they had an energy. They had the energy of an anthill.
Yeah. But it wasn't it wasn't stressful. It wasn't. I didn't feel that they were stressed, and I think that when they had this philosophy of serving one after one by one, they didn't get that kind of stress that you can get when you have a focus of serving as many as possible all the time. Like if you have one-on-one, you're more in the moment, more in present with that person that you have in front of you. So it wasn't stressful environment at all. It was peaceful, but they were very hardworking, but they also took good care of themselves. And I think that's something that Mother Teresa learned along the way, because in the beginning she was a little bit more rigid, and she was she didn't eat properly, and she didn't have so many clothes. She maybe only had one or two. I think that she added one more, so they had three. And she learned that she needed to give her body good food, so she could be capable of helping better, so she wouldn't be tired and sick. But they were like ants, I would say. Yes.
The energy of ants, and it feels like when you say that to me, it feels like it was a natural cadence or pace, because we're going to work hard, we're going to focus on the importance first and the quantity second, and the importance will give us the natural energy of ants instead of a quantity that we're trying to achieve.
If you have deeper connections in relationships, I think that gives energy. If you're just at the surface and just focused on the numbers, I think that's very risky, because and you actually can lose a lot of energy with that philosophy. So I do think that the focus on the one and the help them to have this good energy, and they have the same vision, same mission, all of them. It was very, yeah, it was beautiful to view, and a privilege to be a little bit part of that.
It's an ironic effect. By focusing on the one, she didn't remain alone over there doing it. Things came to her and drew to her, and things were donated to her. By focusing on the one, that was the specific and literal reason that the masses were served. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think she didn't have any idea that it was going to grow this much, because she was focused on, like, in a small scale first before it was growing. But I felt it was impossible not to get touched, not to be to be part of it, because
you had houses and there were orphanages, there were people that were joining you, and I mean, she wasn't alone doing it, because she did it so well. Ultimately, it seemed to garner and attract resources and people and large things happening, right?
Because it was so inspiring to see someone being so dedicated, so convinced that this was like, I don't know how to say it, but I think when you focus on the one, you don't so easily get overwhelmed, because in Calcutta the slums are enormous and the poor people are so many that just walking around and seeing this can easily make people overwhelmed and hopeless and wanted to give up and feeling like you cannot do anything that will make any difference. But Mother Teresa said that was the wrong way of thinking, that the one drop in the ocean is important, because without that drop, the ocean would be less. You don't have to be overwhelmed. You can just focus on one person at a time, and that is the most important thing.
By focusing on just being one drop, that drop ripples, and the reason that I'm across the world and know who she is that I've heard her name a million times, and stories that have inspired, and we all know who she was, and it is because of the quality of the focusing on the one that we know about all that.
Focusing on the one, and also not treating one person different than another. I think that's also has a lot of power in it. It's the opposite of dividing people. She was like a bridge builder between religions, between poor and the rich, between countries. She's a bridge builder. I think she's not only I think that's what we feel when we think about Mother Teresa. She was a uniter. She was a bridge builder. She was a peacemaker. She was someone who took life very seriously when it came to love and kindness. And it's hard to to not get touched and moved and inspired by that.
Yeah.
I think we all have it in us. We want to connect. We want to make a difference.
You've uncovered another little nugget. I think for me, it's fascinating that when you were talking about that she treated everyone the same, what you were meaning is you were saying that she treats everyone with the same respect and honor and nobility. And I was having to reconcile the words that you said, which is she treats everyone the same, which is exactly the opposite of what we've been talking about. She treats every single human individually, specifically, and wants to focus on the one. But what we're saying is both are true. By doing that, ironically, you treat everyone with such respect and such honor that by default that is all the same. You're treating everyone the same because you're treating everyone the very best that you can and that they could be treated.
Yeah.
As you approached these people, there's a natural set of phases that we go through when we interact with another human being. And if you rush in and startle, it's probably not the best start to a relationship. So I want you to tell us about what the general approach you took or that you were taught or that you saw, just the gradual, careful meeting for the first time of some of these people.
So when someone needed my help, I was like most of the time in Calicut, the hospice care. And I didn't know Bengali. I didn't know Hindi, so I wasn't speaking the same language as the people that I were going to help. They knew sometimes a little bit English, but mostly not. And I learned a few words and sentences in Bengali, so I could say some things. But very, very, very limited. So I wasn't able to really speak with them. So when I was going to help someone, I needed to use other human skills than language. I needed to have eye contact. I needed to, even if I talked and I knew they didn't understand me, it was my tone of my voice or the smile at my face that I needed to communicate something with them. So I think that's how I needed to do. Without the language, it was the tone of my voice, it was my eye contact, it was how I touched them that needed to be clear. Communication, that I wanted them to feel safe. I wanted them to be seen. I wanted them to feel wanted and loved. And I wanted them to know that I wanted to do something good for them. So with limited ways of showing that was, I just needed to do, I think eyes, tone and how I touched them was enough for me to communicate that I wanted to help in the best way I could with the basics need they had. And sometimes it was a song in Swedish. Yeah, that helped me to connect. And sometimes it was holding their hands. Sometimes it was helping them to the toilet or washing their diaper or their clothes, running up and down to the it was like a few floors up, and I could hang up their clothes to get dry, and I did that a lot every day. And I actually think it helped me to connect, to be physical tired, because what I needed to do to help them. So good for me to be physical tired, because then I knew I did something that was meaningful to someone else. Yeah, that was a good way of being tired. It's
a good tired. Yeah, the best. Tell me about the leprosy village. We've all heard our whole lives about leprosy colonies and leprosy, and
So that was a month. I went with my friend Tani Pike from Australia, and we went by train and arrived in Radharani, which was the north of India. And there was this village that was Mother Teresa's village, and there were nuns there living. And it was actually a leprosy village where people lived because they had leprosy and they were outcasts from their society and their families. They were not welcomed anymore in the society, and they weren't welcomed in their family. So Mother Teresa, she created this village, and they were self-sufficient. So what they did before they got leprosy, that's what they continued to do when they came to the leprosy village. So if they were good of cooking food, that's what they did. If they were good of planting trees, that's what they did. If they were good at sewing clothes, that's what they did. And they were, I don't know if I can say this in English, but they were making silk and selling it. So that was one production that they had in this village that helped them to be self-sufficient. So they were living there together as outcasts, and they had this new family, you can say. And what we did there, we were just joining them, living with them, and being able to, felt like we were able to give them respect for who they were. And since they were outcasts and seen as lower caste maybe, or dirty, or I don't know, unwanted, it felt very good to give them that respect. And so we cooked with them, and we helped them with whatever we could help them. Also very physical and basic needs. We were laughing with them, we were going to mass with them, we were just being with them. And we didn't know so much about leprosy, but we knew that we didn't take any risks of getting it ourselves, because you're fine living with a person with leprosy if you just don't touch the wounds, if you have a wound yourself, or you don't have to be very careful, just a little bit careful maybe, but not very careful.
First world countries, do we have medicines that prevent us from getting it or cure us if we get it?
I know that they got medicine to stop the process, but since it was so shameful to have it, and they were mostly, of course, very poor, so they didn't have access to proper medical care. But when they came to the village, they got medicine to stop the process, so it didn't get worse. They couldn't get cured, but it didn't get worse.
They couldn't go back home, but they could live.
No, they lived in this village, and they stayed in the village. But they got some dignity back, and they could actually they didn't need anyone's help, because they could do it themselves together. So I thought it was really good idea from Mother Teresa to create this leprosy village. It was even if people were very poor, even if they had very difficult circumstances, I met many people. They were still smiling. They were still giving of their friendship and kindness to you. And every day I was very impressed by the ability for so many people to still be so generous with kindness and love and joy, even in the circumstances that I never seen before. I could not even imagine how it could be, but they were. That was very moving too.
There's an instinct that most people have, a biological immune system, where if we see someone that's not quite right in any way, we feel a little apprehension, we slow down, and we're sometimes resistant to interact with them. And you overcoming that and going and putting your hands on people with leprosy and being among them that were considered less, did that specific thing of descending to them, so to speak, and rising them to your level, did that have a specific effect on you?
Yes, definitely. It was very freeing. I think it takes more energy than we think when we are divided as people, and we are in different groups with different values that the maybe society taught you, or to build bridges, to invite each other to your world, to be friends with people that you maybe never ever before met, is I think it fills you with more hope, and maybe also that you get more humble, less prideful that you for your own successes in life, because I mean, people can work and get success, but it's very much also very much luck that you're born into a society or a family that can help you to grow in that way or give you that privilege. So it's humbling to unite with people with a totally different circumstance than yourself, and see that that person is capable of still laughing and smiling, and you can see that of course we are maybe different in many ways, but we are so much alike as humans, and to feel that we all are the same in so many ways gives you hope and gives you a sense of peace. I think life is not that complicated. It's much about connection. It's much about kindness and love, and inviting people to your life, and to get rid of fear and suspicion, and just to be kind and just talk to people. Life isn't that complicated. I think that's a gift that I got from that.
Beautiful.
Life is not that complicated, and let's invite each other. It's such a more joyful way to live. And it's not that I felt that I was giving that person respect and that I was the giver. I felt very much like a receiver. That person was giving me something. I wasn't above that person in any way. We were equal, and we could give each other different things, and give each other's friendship.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Last question. You learned all these life lessons and the meaning of life in this experience that you had, and yet now you also work for an organization. You're a hospice counselor and therapist, and you don't just have patients. You have coworkers and bosses and customers in business-like or organization-like relationships. What is the single greatest practical lesson that you may have learned with your service with Mother Teresa that would be or is helpful in this organizational life that you live?
I think that it's also here, as in Calcutta, it's about relationships with your co-workers, with the patients, with the families, and so on, with the bosses. It's all about relationships, and it's the same principle that worked in Calcutta. That's the same principles that works in Malmö, Sweden. And it's the same the success that Mother Teresa had, we can have here if we do as she did in this serving the one, being present, in reaching out, offering your friendship, your time, your presence. And I think also that we can also, wherever we are, we can do important things if we do focus on the one, and if we can be present and not overwhelmed with all the numbers and the economics, the money in the system. There is, I think we gain very little by focus on the numbers and the money. If it's much more important to focus on people, relationships, trust, to build safe places for people, that they can trust you, that they can count on you, and they can
focus on the one, not your version of the washers and dryers. Yeah. Ann Stigsson, I am so grateful. It's the focus on the one, the energy of Ann serving, ironically turns someone focusing on the one to a scalable, huge opportunity to help the many. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark Cook.